Speaking to farmers in Pennsylvania today, Trump laid out another part of his economic agenda, saying he would put a 200% tariff on John Deere imports if the company moves production to Mexico as planned.
It's hurting our farmers, it's hurting our manufacturing. I just noticed behind me John Deere tractors. I know a lot about John Deere. I love the company, but as you know, they've announced a few days ago that they're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States.
But what Trump threatened was already happening in ways no one expected. Across the country, over 3,000 tractors have gone silent, not from mechanical failure, but from something far more dangerous, a calculated rebellion that's threatening the very foundation of how America feeds itself. This isn't just about broken machines or corporate greed. It's about a crisis so deep, it's rewriting the rules of agriculture, crashing stock markets, leaving grocery store shelves vulnerable. From the border crossings of Mexico to the quiet fields of Iowa, a storm has been unleashed, one that could reshape farming forever. 3 weeks ago, what Mexican customs officials called enhanced agricultural equipment inspection protocols was actually a surgical strike designed to cripple John Deere. At the Laredo and Nogales border crossings, over 140 John Deere tractors and harvesting machines were suddenly halted, left baking under the desert sun. But here's what made it even more suspicious. Competitors like Case IH and Kubota face minimal delays. This wasn't random bureaucracy, it was warfare disguised as paperwork. The timing was devastating. Mexico's critical planting season was just weeks away. Thousands of acres awaited tilling, fertilizing, and seeding. But the machinery to make it happen was locked in limbo. For farmers who had prepaid for equipment, this wasn't just an inconvenience, it was financial ruin. In Sinaloa, Eduardo Vasquez stared helplessly at 5,000 acres of unplanted land, his fully paid tractor just 10 miles away, but completely unreachable across the border. But that's not all. While Mexican officials gave vague explanations about national standards compliance, the real message was crystal clear. John Deere was no longer welcome without serious consequences. This wasn't some random trade hiccup, it was the culmination of grievances that had been festering for over a decade. And Mexico had chosen the perfect moment to strike. The border blockade was just the visible symptom of a much deeper disease, one that had been poisoning farming communities for years. John Deere's reputation didn't collapse overnight. It eroded with every breakdown, every locked diagnostic screen, and every exorbitant repair bill. That left farmers feeling helpless and exploited. Farmers across North America had long relied on Deere's advanced machinery, but that technological brilliance came with invisible chains. Proprietary software locked every system from transmissions to GPS, requiring authorized technicians for even the most minor repairs. A $50 sensor could cost $500 to unlock, plus thousands more in travel and labor fees. In remote regions, delays stretched into weeks, turning minor malfunctions into devastating losses that wiped out entire seasons. The impact was even more brutal in rural Mexico, where over 300 farm failures in 5 years were directly linked to repair costs and equipment downtime. In one heartbreaking case, a 120-mile tow and a lock software screen cost a farmer his entire season's income. What stung most wasn't just the financial cost, it was the complete loss of autonomy. Farmers, skilled and resourceful people who had been fixing their own equipment for generations, were suddenly barred from touching their own machines, even when they had the parts and the know-how. It gets worse. Internal documents later leaked revealed this wasn't an accident or oversight. John Deere had deliberately built a system designed to maximize repair revenue, not equipment uptime. The company's stranglehold on parts and services was a calculated strategy, and farmers were paying the price, both literally and figuratively. While farmers suffered, Wall Street told a completely different story. In May 2025, John Deere posted stronger than expected earnings that had analysts practically celebrating. The company's stock was projected to rise another 20%, thanks to their strategic pivot toward high-margin technologies, AI-enabled equipment, precision agriculture platforms, and subscription-based software tools. For shareholders, the message was clear and profitable. Deere's future didn't depend on building more tractors for American farmers. It lay in digital ecosystems, automation, and recurring revenue streams that flowed directly to corporate coffers. The financial markets rewarded this shift enthusiastically. Shareholders cheered, executives were praised, and broker reports flashed green across trading floors. But while Wall Street applauded, the view from America's farmlands was devastatingly different. In places like Iowa, Nebraska, and Georgia, where Deere's logo still marked shuttered factories and struggling dealerships, there were no celebrations. The reason this is happening becomes clear when you look at the numbers. The Mexican blockade sent immediate shockwaves through the markets. John Deere's stock lost 27% of its market value by week's end, a staggering $14 billion evaporation, the sharpest drop in the company's 185-year history. Mexico accounts for over $1 billion in Deere's annual equipment sales and $2 billion in parts and service revenue. Every day of disruption piled up massive costs, carrying fees, late penalties, inventory backlogs, burning through $370 million weekly. But listen to this. The real earthquake wasn't happening in boardrooms or on trading floors. It was unfolding in the quiet fields across America, where something unprecedented was taking place. From the cornfields of Iowa to the almond groves of California, tractors were going silent, not because of mechanical failure, but because of choice. Farmers, unable or unwilling to continue under current economic pressures, were shutting down their own operations. This wasn't a traditional strike, no picket signs, no union leaders. There were no press conferences, no organized protests. Instead, there was something far more powerful and disturbing, a kind of quiet defiance that spoke louder than any rally. Machines sat parked, fields remained unworked, and the voices of those who had long been ignored finally found their power in silence. The bombshell revelation came from within Deere itself. A leaked Dropbox link revealed 64 pages of internal documents titled Revenue Enhancement Through Service Exclusivity. These 2017 slides outlined a deliberate strategy to monopolize repairs through software locks and proprietary tools. Former engineer Thomas Wilson confirmed their authenticity, admitting the devastating truth. "We didn't build for uptime, we built for margin." The documents exposed how simple failures, like a $60 hydraulic sensor, were programmed to trigger system-wide shutdowns that required costly dealer interventions. Internal emails discussed exploiting farmers during high-stress seasons, with one executive coldly noting, "If it fails in May, they'll pay by June." When these documents spread across farming communities, they shattered whatever trust remained between Deere and the people who had built the company's reputation. It gets crazier. As Deere reeled from the exposure, competitors seized the opportunity with aggressive campaigns designed to win over frustrated farmers. Case IH launched its Open Farming initiative, offering full diagnostic access and unrestricted parts ordering. Kubota's Farmer First campaign promised open-source software. Mahindra expanded its U.S. dealer network with a compelling pitch: full ownership at half the cost. The response was immediate and brutal for Deere. Over 140 Deere dealerships began talks to switch brands, with 37 signing letters of intent to abandon the company entirely. Farmers flocked to these alternatives, not just for better equipment, but for a principle that Deere had forgotten: respect for the people who actually worked the land. But that wasn't the whole story. The crisis was creating ripple effects that extended far beyond farming communities. Nearly 1.7 million acres in Mexico remained unplanted, threatening winter vegetable supplies, including tomatoes, peppers, and avocados. Futures contracts for these crops soared as traders anticipated shortages. U.S. food processors began warning of ingredient shortages that would hit grocery stores within months. What's happening right now isn't just a corporate dispute or a trade issue. It's a fundamental breakdown in the system that feeds America. When production halts at the source, pressure builds downstream like water behind a failing dam. Warehouses wait longer. Distributors absorb volatility. Retailers pass costs along, and consumers, already struggling with inflation, face even higher prices at checkout. A silent protest in Iowa becomes a more expensive grocery bill in New Jersey. The long-term implications are even more terrifying. For generations, the U.S. food system has depended on the assumption that even if markets shift, even if politics disrupt supply chains, the foundation remains stable. American farmers keep planting, keep harvesting, keep feeding the nation. Today, that confidence is cracking. If farmers walk away not because they want to, but because they can't afford not to, what does that say about the system's priorities? At the heart of this upheaval lies a question that goes far beyond John Deere or even agriculture itself. Is the future being built for everyone, or just for those who can afford to keep up? As agricultural giants push forward with smart farming innovations, satellite-connected tractors, AI-optimized planting systems, cloud-based diagnostics, a new kind of divide is emerging. It's not based on land or labor, but on access to data, bandwidth, and capital. What happens to the farmer who can't afford a $500,000 autonomous tractor? What happens to rural counties where internet speeds are too slow to run cloud-connected machinery? These farmers aren't just being priced out. They're being designed out of existence, not through policy, but through technology that serves only the largest, most well-resourced operations. The transformation is already visible in the numbers and in the landscape. Family-run farms are disappearing at an accelerating rate, often replaced by tech-enabled agricultural operations with deep financial backing. The companies that once represented American farmers now speak the language of venture capital and data analytics, more beholden to shareholders than to soil. This rebellion, whether it's the silent shutdown of tractors across America or Mexico's calculated blockade, is ultimately a warning from the people who feed the country. They're telling us that a system built on exploitation, monopolization, and technological exclusion isn't sustainable. When farmers feel they're being priced out, automated over, and forgotten, the consequences ripple through every grocery store, every dinner table, and every community in America. The question now isn't whether John Deere can adapt to this crisis. It's whether American agriculture can survive the transformation that's already underway. The rebellion may have started with locked diagnostic screens and overpriced repairs, but it's evolved into something much more significant, a fight for the soul of farming itself. The tractors sitting silent in fields across the heartland aren't just machines, they're symbols of a system under siege. And until the people who grow our food feel heard, respected, and fairly treated, those engines may stay silent, leaving all of us to wonder, what happens when the people who feed the world finally say they've had enough?